Hey ladies, this is Mocha Mommy here bringing you another video. In keeping with our live streams regarding STEM careers, I have with us Prime Standard. Prime Standard, can you introduce yourself? Tell us what part of the country you're from and exactly what you do in the STEM field.
I am actually in Canada, Western Canada to be
Okay,
exact.
wow.
Yes, I moved from Toronto to Western Canada. I work in the oil and gas industry, particularly in operations. So I work on the team that actually moves the oil from the field to the refinery.
Wow. So, can you tell us a little bit about your education background and how exactly did you end up in the oil and gas industry?
Um, I kind of always wanted to work in oil and gas. It's something like I've mentioned a couple times growing up to people around me, but for some reason, like I was never like pushed or motivated to actually pursue it from a young age.
Really?
Yeah. So at the end of high school, I took a year off and I worked retail for a while. And then my mom said that I'm just too smart and I need to go to school. It didn't matter what, but I needed to go to
Mhm.
school. So I went to a 2-year college for general arts, and I actually really liked that program. Um, in that program, I sharpened my critical thinking skills. We did a lot of philosophy, history, psychology, stuff like that. Like anything a regular general arts program will have, or liberal arts, they call it, I guess. And from there, that program was a feeder program to a university in Toronto. And I actually got a scholarship through that program too, just by
Through your
my,
two-year program.
yeah, just for GPA. Like it's an automatic scholarship. And yeah, so then I went on to the university, and then that was another experience. And like I was just telling Mocha Mommy earlier, I did the university program like part time, and I worked most of it most of the time. So I did like probably 30 hours of my actual job, and then went to school part time. Because not that the program wasn't useful, it just um, I'm gonna say it wasn't my calling. But I did finish it, and um the things I learned in that program are invaluable to me now, even though I'm working in STEM.
What were some of the skills that your liberal arts degree um, help? How is that helping you now in the oil and gas and STEM industry?
Um, Not so much with the actual work itself, except for maybe writing up a document, a procedure, email, or something like that. But in terms of being speaking to people,
So,
uh,
written and verbal communication.
yes, written and verbal
Hmm.
communication and interpersonal skills um, would be, I would say it's definitely beneficial. I know, how would I say it? Like basically in 2021, 2020, like almost everything could be a sensitive topic. So you have to know how to carry yourself and speak intelligently, but still like, I don't know how to explain it. You have to speak intelligently, but like not offend people, and have critical thinking skills. Not everything is something to be um upset or like just motivated by your emotions.
Give us an example because I feel like you're talking about something that might be able to like help us to navigate workplace
So
culture.
that's exactly the word. It's more about workplace culture. So workplace culture, I always, if I'm talking to someone, I generally just start with the weather, and then someone will bring up global warming. Usually I say nothing, but if I'm forced to say something, those skills that I learned from my liberal arts degree help me to like just say something um, eloquently without putting myself in too much hot water.
Okay, so this was actually a discussion on another platform. When people
Really?
bring politics into the workplace, how do you deflect? So when someone brought up that issue in global warming, especially with you being in oil and gas,
Yeah.
how did you pivot?
Usually I say nothing. That's my natural pivot. People know I don't I speak seldom, like not often. But um you know what I would say? Even though I'm working in oil and gas, I am, there to complete the same mission as everyone else that works there. I still get questioned by some of the people if I am actually there, and like, how do I say this? Like if I'm actually there to do the work or if I have ulterior motives.
What do you mean?
Like so it's a very conservative work culture, even though the company itself has projects in renewables. Um,
Okay.
some of the people in the work culture have very conservative views. So they see me and they see that I'm different. So they assume that all my beliefs are different. Like I would want to like so for some reason like even came up like at one point like questioning if I was a vegan. I'm like,
Oh,
what?
so they're trying to gauge your temperature to find out if you're
Yeah, they're
conservative.
trying to see
Okay, okay.
how conservative I am, how liberal I am. And I'm like, I'm here doing the same job as you. Even though I look different, I'm here to achieve the same goal that you are here to do. So yeah, that is actually a very interesting thing. Like, so the workplace culture, you have to like know how to gauge it. And I think having a concrete understanding of human psychology, what motivates people, and critical thinking, that will save you in the long run and how you engage with your colleagues. But more so, because I have this experience, I'm able to have discussions with my supervisors and my bosses very easily that some of my colleagues can't.
Explain that.
I wouldn't say can't, but like they're just not well as versed as I guess I would say. So like I was just saying earlier, the company itself does have projects in renewables, and all my supervisors know I'm also interested in renewables as well. So they could bring up that conversation with me, but they would not bring up that conversation with some of my other colleagues.
Hmm. So Moving in silence has an advantage for you.
Yes.
Ladies, y'all hear that? Moving in silence has an advantage in workplace culture. Remember that. Now, tell us a little bit about your academic coursework while you were in once you left, your liberal arts program and went into IT. Like, tell us a little bit about like the academic rigor, the admission process, and how you even chose it.
So I, um, so literally the day I finally graduated my 4-year arts uh, degree, I sat down and knew I did not want to go into that field. So the day I got that piece of paper in the mail, I started doing extensive research, like maybe a couple weeks, and I'm like, I'm going to do it. This is the time to go into oil and gas. And at this time, I was in probably like my mid to late 20s, and I so for me, I knew time was of the essence, so I decided to go with a 2-year program.
At a
And
community college or for-profit college?
um, I'm not sure exactly what a community college equivalent is in Canada, but it's a
Okay.
2-year like Polytech. Like
Okay.
this one is they're firmly planted in the sciences.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, so then I did that research, and when I even did like what is the expected wage when I graduated, kind of work life balance, all that stuff. And in doing so, I had to go back to high school and get my math and sciences, which I never did because it wasn't a requirement for um, my arts degree.
So even though you were a college graduate,
Yep.
you went backwards to get the math and science foundation that you needed to get the career you wanted.
Yes. So another thing about this particular program, it is extremely competitive. Like within Canada and even internationally. So when I went, and this is another thing, I went back to basically, we call it adult school here in Canada.
Okay.
So I literally just finished getting my um, university degree, and I was working with people who were now trying to finish their high school diploma. So it
Uh-huh.
was a hit to my ego, but I swallowed it and I did it.
Wow. I am so glad that you said that because I really feel that holds so many of us back
Yeah.
and to get into the fields that we really want, not having the humility to get the academic support that we need so we can move forward in those lucrative careers. Like we
Yeah.
just tend to rely on our strengths that are in the humanities and then don't really step back to get those academic foundations under control. So I'm so glad you said that. Like because having that humility is really what separates the wheat from the chaff. So I'm so glad you said that. So tell us a little bit about um like what that Polytechnic program was like once you were in.
So that program was a tough one. It is very condensed, very fast moving,
Mhm.
and very, very competitive. But you also learn a lot. The number one difference I want to mention between like a 4-year university and this Polytech college, these instructors were rooting for you. Like they they come from the industry, they have connections, they are willing, if you're showing enough effort, they are willing to like uh put you up for positions, interviews. I had
Say that
one.
again. Say that again. Say that again.
They're willing to put you up for interviews, put your name in conversations that would benefit you. I had one instructor sit down and help me rewrite my whole resume. It was a completely different experience from just being a number in a very large four-year university.
Wow. I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you say that because how many people are intimidated? Number
Yeah,
one, to look dumb in front of their professors, and two, to be vulnerable and ask those questions. So I'm so glad that that vulnerability paid off.
yeah. One thing I do want to mention. So this program is really fast paced, like really competitive. And I actually failed one course in my first semester. And that one course set me back an extra year. And I still stuck with it and finished the program.
Wow. So even after a setback, you still persevered and ended up in your industry of choice.
Yeah, because I don't know, once I make a choice and I feel like this is where I'm meant to be and I'm just getting the signs this is where I'm meant to be, I stick with it.
I'm glad you said that because I feel like there's a lot of people who get like here in the United States, a lot of Black women get educationally marginalized.
Yeah.
And then they find out that they fail a class and it's wow. And then they take that setback personally and never persevere through. So,
Yeah.
how many hours a day were you in class and what was your homework schedule like? Things like that when you were in the Polytechnic school.
So I was literally in class, I think from like 7 or 8 till like about 6, because basically all the good classes were always selected early, right? It's even competition to get the best schedule. And it's a small group of us. So if you're not ready, if your tuition is not paid by a certain time, you're not getting a good schedule. So I would have classes from 8 to 6 and then have to study from like 6 till about 11 sometimes. It was grueling. I definitely did have a study group, which made it easier. But sometimes I was literally up from about 6 to not 6. I was in class from about 6 to about, sorry, 8 to 6 in the evening, and then I'll be studying up to 10 o'clock.
How'd you meet your study group?
Um, so study groups are interesting. So study groups, I had a couple study groups. That's another thing. Like make friends with different people. I had one that was obviously based on race. We were all uh, Black, or the
Mm-hmm.
only Black students in the program, and there was others. Like I hung out with the girls sometime. I hung out with the international students sometime.
Mm-hmm.
I had, and then sometimes we all came together and studied. So, however it works.
Okay, so you are constantly moving between groups to get your academic needs met, um, so that you could like get the help you needed.
Um, no, so like sometimes it just naturally happens. Like, um, and when I say like, so this is another thing actually, because I have that experience in in the arts, like so like my English and like some of the writing courses got waived, and people heard that and they would come to me for help.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yes,
So it was a
especially
very
the
quid pro
international.
quo.
Yeah, very quick.
Mm,
Especially the international students, I will help them like just edit some of their work. I help quite a few people with their resumes who got jobs
okay.
from my resumes. So
Okay.
yeah, like, and I think everybody knows what we're there for. So they helped me in a way, I helped them in a way, but it naturally came about.
Ah, okay. So you built alliances by using your strengths to help other people, and then they use their strengths to help you. So kind of like
Exactly.
very quid pro quo. You had professors where if you showed the ambition and the drive, that also helped you to navigate into the professional world. Did you have any like internships, externships, co-ops, anything like that that helped you get a more hands-on approach?
Yeah. So I think I listened to one of your earlier stems and lives, and there was mention of nepotism. So even within this program, there were people who their families come from this business.
Mm-hmm.
So their co-op was, or their summer internship was already spoken for and it was going to be paid. So me in particular, I had did research on this one particular company and I really wanted to get in. And thankfully, nobody really wanted this company because they weren't paying for the internship, and it was going to be a short one. So that worked in my favor. So I got in that company and then I made connections there and ultimately got hired by that company when I graduated.
Okay, so you accepted a shorter unpaid internship
Yes.
in order to get where it was that you wanted.
Yes.
So, what did that mean for you financially? What did that?
Um, it kind of really sucked coming back, hearing about everyone else's experiences and how much money they made. But I just knew in the long run and what I want my life to look like, I knew that's the company for me because that company is based in the city. A lot of those people who took the paid um, internship, they had to go out in the field, which is like sometimes it's like 6 hours out in the bush.
Yep,
So, and that's not my style.
that sounds like the American oil and gas industry.
It is literally a little Texas. Like I feel like I moved from New York and came to Texas.
Yeah, I feel like that's the American oil and gas industry because what would happen was even if you were whether you were military or if you were on like a community college 2-year college campus, right, these oil and gas guys would come around and be like, look how much money you can make, and
Yep.
you already have the foundational skills and blah 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 blah, but then you're out in the middle of nowhere or sometimes you're offshore, like you're in
Yes.
the middle of the water.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's great that you have a pocket full of money because I mean, it was easy for a 22-year-old to come back with like 60 grand in their pocket, you
Oh,
know,
yeah.
for like but at the same time, 3 months out of the you're only home 3 months out of the year.
Yeah. No, I
9 months you're in the
knew.
middle of the woods.
Yeah. No, that's not my style. So I really work life balance was uh, a concern of mine, even when I was in um, college. One more thing I wanted to add: when my last year of that college program,
Huh?
from September, I was applying to jobs, even though I was gonna graduate in April.
Okay, so you got an early jump on the application process.
Yes, so I knew what they didn't want, what they want. Like I started from then. So I actually got two jobs right when I graduated because I already knew what they were looking for and how to sell myself on my resume.
I'm glad you said that. You would be surprised how many people wait for like 2 weeks before graduation to
Yep.
finally start applying.
I have friends that I graduated that got a job like a year and a half after we graduated.
Wow, because they procrastinated.
Yep. And some of them I would actually like almost beg them to help them, and they're like, no, it's not an issue.
You hear that? Procrastination. Procrastination will kill you. And I agree with you on that one. Like, procrastination really does. I mean, because it shows ambition and forward thinking. And a lot of times, you know, here in the United States at least, 50% of job openings are not even listed.
Yep. Yep.
Right.
I agree. Yes.
So it's kind of like if your resume's there, a short staff supervisor would rather take an ambitious student who puts a resume right in front of them than dive through this electronic abyss of applications and resumes because they're already short staffed.
Yep.
Nobody has time to put those ads on Indeed and monsterjobs.com. Nobody has that kind of time when you're short. So if
Yep.
a student comes right to you,
Yep.
you're an employer's dream.
So
I'm
yeah, and that's
glad you
where
said
those
that.
instructors at the 2-year program, they would even help and navigate. You need to email this person directly, not the company.
Wow. Like, man, I mean, like Tiny Princess, is this like ringing a lot of bells for you? Because I feel like we were having these conversations, right? About workplace culture, application process, connections, because, she's a content creator too who makes education
Yeah,
content.
I'm very familiar with her.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Good. Yeah. She makes education content too. So definitely, guys, check out her channel and subscribe. But like you said, you were forward thinking, you knew what you wanted to do, and you made those short-term sacrifices for your long-term goals.
Yes.
Yeah. Because I feel like that happens in Texas where you got the young people in the oil and gas are out in the middle of nowhere, like San Angelo and Brenham. But then the senior executives work in Houston and they
Yeah.
in
So
Dallas and they have nice offices.
I basically work and live in Houston and Dallas, and I'm living a good life, and I'm making the same salary, and I still have the same kind of schedule, like 5 days on, 5 days off. It's awesome.
Wow. Now, here in the United States, the oil and gas industry is very male dominated. Are you finding that in Canada?
Oh, absolutely. But I actually prefer it.
Interesting. So tell me, as a woman, how you navigate it, because
uh,
that's intimidating for some people.
this is so strange to me. Like even in my program, like the 2-year program, it was obviously mostly uh men. And people will mention
Mhm.
like, oh, aren't you girls so like brave and like trailblazing? You're here with a bunch of men. And I would not even know I was one of maybe 2 girls in the room until someone mentioned it. It doesn't feel, it's not as intimidating as people make it to be. And I guess because I'm a person that really knows myself, it doesn't bother me. It really does not bother me being sometimes the only female in the room. I'm more aware of being the only Black person in the room.
Wow. Wow. So being the only woman in the room is not intimidating.
No, I don't even notice it until someone else brings it up. But in my particular company that I work at now, I work one of the more difficult ad sets, and majority of the people on my team are females. So there's a lot of respect for females, but I'm guessing, I know I'm not guessing. I know there's still like glass ceilings and whatnot, but in your everyday interactions is not as big of a concern as people make it out to be. I would say race is.
How so?
Um, like I have like my upper bosses, a couple of them are female. Like in my company, and I know my company is one of the best employers in Canada, so I know it is not across the board in the industry, but this is why I chose them. So when you're choosing a company, even though the money might be great somewhere else, you really want to be aware of what kind of situation you're going to put yourself in.
Like you want to be aware of the workplace culture.
The workplace culture, the benefits,
Uh-huh.
stuff like that. Yeah. Um, I'm telling you, like I'm around females all the time. I would say there's probably like at least 25 to 30% females in the whole operations team.
Okay. So what does your day-to-day look like at your particular job? And what is like the general like consensus of your, like the general title, the general umbrella your job falls under in the gas industry?
So we are a midstream operations midstream operations company. So we basically move the oil from the field to the refinery.
Okay.
Yeah.
So um is it like here in the United States where like politics and environmentalism are starting to come into play? Are you feeling that impact in your industry?
Every day.
Okay, explain it.
So like I was saying, so there be a protest at one of our assets, or there be there would be sorry. So there would be like appeals to block a project, and this is where some of my coworkers have strong opinions, as I would imagine, right? And I won't say anything, like it doesn't bother me, because at the end of the day I know we're still making money. Um so these things come into play. Like it's at the point where we have to be cautious that one of our alarms may be an environmental uh protest instead of an actual emergency condition.
So you mean people tamper with your alarm system, or is it
Yeah.
that?
Well, that's what we're being trained for. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
And what about politics? Is there a push for like clean energy and we're going to close these this is there a push for that or?
There's a push to push more oil. While, like, being mindful of, like, we have these other renewable projects, and like we need to be an innovator and a leader in the industry. But ultimately, for our everyday concern is like, how much oil did we push today?
Okay. Are you seeing like an increase? I mean, an increase in prices on the other on the consumer side?
Uh, um, yeah, yeah. And honestly, 2020, 2021 is a strange year. Obviously, we all know, for oil prices.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, I didn't really look into it, but I'm assuming that they just want to recoup their losses from 2020 for the high prices.
Ah, that's interesting. Huh. That's interesting that you said that. But anyway, I mean, what does your day to day look like? Do you work
Oh,
in the
yes.
field, on a computer, in an office? What is your day to day?
So I work in a large control room. I have about like a eight eight monitor setup. I
Okay.
control our assets remotely on
Mm.
computers, and so basically we move the oil throughout the system, and then um, they're not really paying me for that, because that's the easy part. What they're paying me for is to be able to recognize emergency conditions, and be able to like mitigate that or shut down before it gets too serious.
So, a little bit like the Event Horizon situation that happened in America or didn't happen in America, I
Oh,
should say.
I'm not familiar with that one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can let me know. That'll be
Okay, okay. It was they actually made a movie about it. It was an offshore oil drill that did not have the proper fail safes, and it caused a humongous oil spill that they
Oh,
didn't know how to stop.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So, um, uh, we are paid to make sure those things are not happening. And so it's a high stress situation. You have to be able to deal with stress, but there's a lot of downtime. Like sometimes, yeah, sometimes there's a lot of downtime and you have to be able to respond quickly.
Hmm. Okay. So it's like uh we say that feast or famine.
Yeah,
Right. Okay. Okay.
that's exactly it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So how did you end up picking this particular part of the and gas industry?
Um, I actually chose the company first,
Okay.
and then I had that co-op because I was not actually thinking of this department, but my co-op was in this department, and then the people there sold me on the lifestyle.
Ah.
Yes, yes. So it's kind of like you kind of work hard, play hard kind of situation. So I once I got into that department and I already knew everything I already knew about the company, I decided I am going to follow up and put my name in for a position.
Okay. Wow. So that's good then. So your current coworkers sold you on the position when
Yeah,
you were a student.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Wow. So you chose this company because you wanted a good work-life balance.
yeah.
Did you feel that you got that?
Um, 2020 kind of put a damper on that
Mhm.
because I had to do lots of overtime.
Okay.
Um, because not saying too, but during the COVID, our team was the utmost priority for the
Mm.
company,
Yeah, okay.
right? So if someone even mentioned they had a headache, they had to isolate. So 2020 was a different year. Like I worked a
Okay.
lot of overtime, obviously no vacation. But
Uh-huh.
prior to that, oh, I have like how my schedule works. I have those 5 days off, and then I could take a vacation on top of that. So we get a lot of time off, and you could travel. You could like do short trips here and there. It's for a young person especially, and I know some of your viewers are younger. Like, if you want to travel, this is the job for you. Like, get into operations.
Ooh, you hear that? That's awesome. Get into operations.
You get a lot of time off
Ah,
if you could. Yeah.
okay. Wow. I wonder if that's true in the United States.
Some of those guys. So some of those guys you mentioned, they if they're making the kind of money that you're saying, then once this pandemic is over, they're probably going to be doing a lot of traveling.
Oh, okay. That's cool. I'm in healthcare and I feel that way. I feel like a lot of people, when all this was over, because we were so overwhelmed, a lot of people just like they're still chilling.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I
Because
have
they're burnt
some
out.
friends,
Yeah.
yeah, in your field. Yeah, I could imagine that.
But that's great that you had gotten into operation. So was math and science a strong point for you when you were in high school?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Um, because I am very well versed in like in arts or whatever you want to call it. In high, I literally used to calculate how many classes I need to go to in order to pass the class and which classes were more important. And math was one of them I often used to skip. And it's something while I was working on these STEM programs, is a it's a it's something I wish I took more seriously in high school. But you could always redeem yourself. Like if you weren't able to do it in high school, or like you didn't feel like you made high enough grades, as long as you're willing to put in the work later, it will come to you. And math is something you have to build on. Like just like English and any other language, you have to build the skill. So
Okay.
I wish I had that fundamentals, but ultimately it took me longer in life and later in life to go back and get it, but I've eventually got it. And it's something I use every day in my job. Like I use
Ah,
basic math every day, solving little problems every day. So if I had known now then what I know now, I would have taken it way more seriously.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really glad you said that. Like that even though it wasn't your strong point in high school, that you still were able to pivot in your adult life and that you had the humility in your adult life to go back and learn it and that you were open to getting help from others because I just feel like people think they have to show up perfect.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful you said that.
So that's another thing. Now that you mention it, when I was in that STEM program, that 2-year program, I definitely got tutors outside of like my study group and whatnot. And I definitely went and got extra time for my tests. Here we have to do a like some kind of evaluation and they determine if you could get extra time, and I got that. And then I also, because I like realizing how much like kind of far behind I was in the math department, like it was very stressful for me. So I actually had to use the school like counselors and therapists because I was stressed out.
Okay.
And it's not free. Your tuition pays for it here, but like you could book as many appointments as you want. It compared to like an actual therapist outside of the school.
So your 2-year school offered like
Yep,
mental health support. Okay.
exactly. And I used it because it was a little bit daunting knowing
Mhm.
how far behind I was in the math department. I knew where I needed to be and I wasn't exactly there. So that was something that really um it gets at your ego because like you've done this program, like I've finished university, I've done all these other steps, and like here's like some what now that I've been working so long, I'm like, okay, what I was doing back in that Polytech is pretty much kind of basic math. But at the time, because I didn't have like that strong foundation and confidence in math, it was stressful.
Oh, is anyone in your family in the STEM industry in oil and gas? Are you the only one? Because
I'm
it sounds like you were passionate about it, but where did that even come from? Was it somebody
I'm
you
the
know or
I'm the only one. I am absolutely the only one. And I chose to work in energy because I just sat, I don't know, it just came to me one day like, what do you want to do? You want to be useful, you want to like uh provide some kind of benefit to the people around you. And I just felt like I kept coming back to energy because like I was thinking medical, but I'm like, you got to keep the lights on for the doctors. I was thinking something else, but I'm like, you got to keep the fuel for the farmers. So it just came back to energy, and it just seems like our whole world needs it, right? You want to find something that's useful, and like, how do I explain this? It's, I don't know, but basically it was something that I was passionate about because I knew it was in every facet of human life.
Okay. So because you knew that everyone needed industry, I mean energy, you felt secure. So
Yeah.
are your future prospects in industry? Is there still a demand for it in your particular metro area, like with the area where you plan on staying or settling down?
Um, well, because I've been so focused on education and career, like I'm beginning to like I'm beginning to learn like I need to focus on the social and like romantic parts of my life more.
Okay, not mad at that.
So while I had big plans, I am going to um basically I've come to have a comfortable life. So I do have plans. I know I am going to be transitioning into renewables eventually, but maybe
Okay.
not as quickly as I I thought earlier.
So what being a single woman in a
Yeah.
male dominated industry,
Yeah.
in a place where you don't want to mix business with pleasure, how are you navigating that?
Um it's hard. It's not hard per se, like I don't mix business and pleasure,
That's smart. That's smart.
but um how do I say this? I am open to the right one if
Okay.
that ever comes along. So, but I don't recommend it.
Mhm.
I have not. But it's nice to have something to look at work. I love no, it's really nice. And some of these men are young, smart, handsome, intelligent, making
Right.
money. So
Mhm.
I could see why. Oh, actually, that's another thing. A lot of quite a few of the women at my work pair with men at my work. So
Okay.
it's not an issue. It's
Okay.
it's not an issue. I'm just gonna be a little bit more selective. I'm I but yeah. There's like people who are married meeting at our job.
Yeah, like before the 1980s, that was the number one way people met their spouse was at work. But
Wow.
yeah, like but they kind of started putting a lot more barriers between that after like the like Anita Hill Clarence Thomas thing, because some people were violating boundaries
Yeah.
and and it
So
decreased productivity.
can I
But
say
at the same
something?
time, yeah, go ahead.
Um, I have never felt that any of my male coworkers have overstepped any boundaries, all except one.
Okay.
I'm not going to say what race he was, but so for the most part, these are like just pretty much nice, honest men there to do the same thing that you're there to do, work, make money. Like, I really don't get, I haven't had these issues where like it's so uncomfortable working with or for men. I don't understand where that comes from.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest difference between Gen X and like millennials because we do remember it in the workplace.
Yeah, maybe. And so that's
Yeah,
another
for
thing. That,
sure.
like, you, y- I think you guys have paved the way for us where it is like there is no issue for me when it comes to being like one of few females working with a large group of men.
Right. Yeah. I remember we had like a workplace study survey, and they were saying like 85% of men don't think that it's appropriate to talk a certain way in the workplace. And I'm like, what? 85%? It just goes to show how much there's been a humongous change in
Yeah.
workplace
So
culture. But then
yeah,
at the same time, there's still those 15% who are just straight up, you know, jerks.
yeah.
That makes it hard. So I think that's so amazing that you said that you have not had as many problems, because believe it or not, that's what keeps some women out of STEM.
I didn't know that.
Fear, yeah, fear of being in a male dominated workplace, knowing that some of those intimidation factors are there, right?
Like there,
So
I'm
when
not
someone
gonna
said
lie,
that,
there's definitely some mansplaining, right? But in terms of like me feeling uncomfortable, it's not gonna happen. I do want to mention I do see that because our work culture is more PC, that some of my male counterparts are privy to information or like maybe opportunities because they have a more relaxed relationship with
I agree.
some of our senior male staff. So
Hmm.
there is a benefit to it, and then there is not so much.
Yeah, I agree. Kind of like the golf buddy culture.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Hmm. Yeah. Actually, Prime went to school in Canada.
Yeah.
She's on the western coast of Canada, and she the culture mimics that of what you may find in Houston, um, where you're in the energy industry, it's male dominated, and there's a lot of people who work remotely, but she chose to work more in the city center. So, because she got into a field that put her in the city center. So that was a really good question. But um, as far as like uh, contract work, gig economy, are you seeing that at all in the, in the oil and gas industry? Are you seeing that like temp work, gig economy, independent contractors, things that maybe would give people even more of a work life balance if they maybe only want to work seasonally? Is that happening in your industry? Have you seen that?
Not so much anymore.
Okay.
Maybe when things were booming. Um,
Okay.
right now we're in like a low cycle,
Hmm.
but so not so much. I do know people who have decided to go work for themselves, and
Okay.
ironically, they work more because
Yep.
it's all on them.
Hmm.
Um, I definitely, when I was growing up, when things were booming in the oil industry, I've heard of those things, but not so much anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I'm glad you said that, because I think that energy industry has a lot of ebbs and flows. And is the particular part of the energy industry you're in, is it subject to the ebbs and flows?
It
Your particular
is the least volatile part of it.
part. Ooh.
This is
So
why I love my
operations.
company. Yeah.
Yeah, operations is the least volatile part of the oil and gas
Midstream.
industry.
Midstream is the
Hmm.
least volatile part.
Midstream.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm really glad you said that, because that's another fear people have of the energy industry, the ebbs and flows, the environmental and political uncertainty that could impact the industry.
Yeah.
You feel that you're a little bit more well insulated because of what you chose.
Yeah.
Wow.
Um, when it comes to like environmental and concerns, I feel like until there is an actual technological breakthrough, then you could have a concern of like, okay, maybe this industry is going to die. But then, even when that technological breakthrough happens, it's going to take oil and gas to fuel, like to build it. So,
Mm.
Yeah. So they are not concerned. They are not concerned too much about it because they know in order to get to that point, you're going to need oil and gas to build it.
That's that's a really good one because I think people fear that here, and I'm like, we're a long way away
We're
from
a long way. Yeah. I
yeah.
think we might deplete our oil and gas reserves before. Um, yeah, no, I am not concerned. Obviously, there are times where, like, like, yeah, they trim the fat, but in my team, it only gets bigger. We're always hiring. Oh,
Huh.
that's another thing about operations. It takes 6 to 1 6 months to 1 year to fully train someone. So once you're there for life. You would have to
Wow.
grossly, uh, like, abuse company policy to get to leave that position.
Are there opportunities for advancement?
So why I chose my company, there is lots of opportunity to try different departments and
Mhm.
advancement as well, but I knew eventually I would wanna move into different departments. So we have options to go visit them, do like a 6-month stay at that job, and if you want to, you could transition over into that job.
Okay. So it's not like you have to go to other schools, you just may have to make those connections in your
Another
particular
yeah,
company to make those
one thing
laterals.
yeah. So for this company, they also pay for your schooling. Like if you wanna like
Okay.
if I wanted to go get my master's, they would pay for it.
Okay, that's good. And then you would probably still have a job when you got on
No,
the other
like
side of the
so
degree.
most people do their degree while they do this job.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Like, they'll do, like, a part-time or remote, schooling,
Mhm.
and you can still work. This company is really about, like, you bettering yourself. If you wanna better yourself in any capacity, they're gonna help you find a way for you to do it.
Okay. Um, well, thank you for that. Now we're coming up on an hour. So what would be your advice to young ladies who are considering careers in STEM and who maybe have to make a pivot from a different degree program or a different career?
Um, if it's something that's in the back of your head and you just can't let it go, I think you really need to look into it and decide if you wanna make that pivot, know that it's definitely gonna take you out of your comfort zone. Um, but the kinda life experience, knowledge, everything,
Mhm.
it doesn't compare to where you are right now. Um, my biggest concern when I chose to make that pivot was time, and I am glad I followed through. I felt like my concerns on time were it wasn't an issue, like, it happened so fast. It all happened so fast, and I'm way further now than I would have if I had stayed on the course that I would have chosen. Um, yeah, I think you I think you need to practice, like, make a small decision that has with something else that has been bothering you, and then look for a confirmation, look for a sign, like, I'm in the right place at the right time, and then you work on that intuition muscle and then dive in.
Wow, I'm so glad that you said that. Like you trusted your intuition and that your time investment was well worth it in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So thank you so much for this conversation and all of your willingness to give all of the information that you did, because I think that one of the things that hold people back are the questions about their academic readiness, the questions about the culture, and you answered a lot of those. And then the questions of competence. So thank you so much for just telling us how you gain that competence and then that confidence to go after what you wanted. So thank you so much for that. I really do
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for all these discussions you've been having. It's been very helpful for even me, even though I'm older. So I'm just really happy and grateful that you're doing what you're doing.
Oh, thank you. You know, I feel like the young like members of the audience were kind of like asking me questions about like engineering and IT, and I'm like, I have no idea. So I was grateful for all the people who like volunteered to help. Like
Yeah.
hey, I'm willing to help these young women navigate, even if it means owning up to my mistakes where I wasn't perfect, or the pivot that I've had to make, or the challenges that I have. But just knowing that there are people out there who are willing to help you.
Yeah,
And
there's always
yeah,
someone.
so you're not out there on your own, ladies. There are people who are willing to mentor, train, tutor, and educate you on the fields that you're interested in. So there's no need to feel intimidated. So thank you so much, Prime, for volunteering for this panel. I really do appreciate it. And
Thanks
thank
for
you, ladies, for
having me.
participating. Okay, so I'll answer some questions that, even though they were off topic of the live, I'm gonna tell you something, Sun Queen Ari, Sun Goddess Ari. I'm gonna tell you something. The standard is the standard, is the standard, is the standard, is the standard. So if you have a dream school, wake up, and you better get that work in. You put that work in. I don't care how hard math is. If you have to climb that mountain on your hands and knees and use your fingernails to get it, you get there. Because if it's your dream, you better wake up, because nobody is out here giving free rides anymore. That was the past. That was the 90s. And right now in 2021, nobody's playing with you. And I'm saying this to be honest. Nobody is looking at applications feeling sorry for you anymore. The competition is real. This is why there are these rich folks in jail right now, because they had to bribe people $500,000 to get their kids into the schools that you're talking about, because nobody's playing anymore. This is real, and this is not a game, and you have to take this seriously. So if that means that your dream school is something, wake up and you better get it done, because you can't just meet the standard, girl, you got to exceed it. And that's the truth. And so right now you had somebody giving you the game on what it takes to get into a top leading industry. And you're kind of talking about your personal struggle with math. And I'm trying to say that people have overcome it. And you can too. The only difference is there's nothing you can put in anybody's YouTube chat, but it's everything that you have to do to get the work in real life. Okay? So that's what you have to do. If you have a dream school, wake up. The reality is you got to put the work in. So, ladies, thank you so much for attending this. And Prime Standard, thank you so much for volunteering your time. And as more STEM lives come up, I'll make sure I keep you guys posted. We have a lot of busy young professionals who really want to give you guys advice and support, and know that it's not just here online, but it really is out there if you're willing to go out and search for it. So thank you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next live.